Hi. In this video, I want to discuss hearing aid pricing. And I want to discuss the different strategies and tactics that the hearing aid retailers are using to be able to maximize the pricing that they charge or that they can extract from you as a consumer on a set of hearing aids. And we want to discuss how with hearing aid pricing ranging from as little as $4,000 for a very basic set all the way up to $14,000 for a premium set. I want to show you how you're able to obtain hearing aids at a fraction of that price. Where I'd like to start is to set the scene to give you an idea and understanding of how the industry actually works. So the first thing to understand is that the hearing aid industry is all about big business and it's about big profits. And all of the manufacturers and most of the retailers are actually billion-dollar multinational foreign companies. These are big players, and the whole goal for these businesses is to maximize dividends for their shareholders. At every level, whether it's the manufacturers with their team of executives, etc., these people are incentivized to be able to maximize profit. So they'll be on bonuses, they'll be on commission structures. If they don't meet targets, at least they'll be there, they won't have a job any longer. So the whole goal here is to maximize the profit out of every single sale. And the rewards are obviously extremely high for those individuals. And that's a sad thing these days, and that's how the industry has changed quite significantly over the last number of decades. So the next point I really want to very briefly mention is that the consumer, unfortunately, is very vulnerable, and everybody is vulnerable to these large organizations. But we're also looking here at a class of consumer who, by the very nature, is very vulnerable. People who require a hearing aid don't want a hearing aid. I've never had anybody tell me that they want a hearing aid, that they're overjoyed that they're getting a hearing aid. But they need the hearing aid. The hearing aid is a necessity for them. Now, the majority of these people are also elderly. These people tend to be very trusting. They typically may not shop around. And by and large, they're somewhat timid and fearful of even negotiating on price. So you can see how these people are vulnerable prey to these large organizations. The other thing that tends to exacerbate this is really my next point, and that is the environment in which hearing aids basically are prescribed and fitted. And most hearing aids are fitted, let's say, in a medical environment. But what you got to understand is that every medical environment is also a retail environment. So some companies are openly commercial. They'll be in shopping centers. They'll be dragging people into their clinics for hearing tests, etc., to screen them. However, there are others who I would describe as wolves in sheep's clothing. And this is where the consumer lets their guard down. And this is where a retailer is actually operating, let's say, in a hospital environment or in a medical center, in a hearing clinic, even in government organizations where they fit hearing aids. And then we have the issue of ENT practices as well. You go and see an ear, nose, and throat specialist, checking out your ears. Maybe some surgery might be appropriate, maybe not. Maybe a hearing aid's appropriate. A large percentage of ENTs are actually shareholders of hearing aid retail companies as well. So invariably, the unaware consumer will be sent to one of these retail outlets where the ENT has a vested interest. And because the consumer is in that medical environment, they feel that they're safe and that they're being taken good care of and that they're in good hands. The other area, in a sense, where we've got wolves in sheep's clothing are some of the online services and programs that we come across these days. So we have online advisory services who are there apparently representing the best interests of the consumer. They're an advocate for the consumer. Or we have discount hearing aid sites, sites that claim that they're going to provide you with the cheapest products available. And a lot of these are simply ploys. They are systems or websites that are designed to generate leads, and then those leads are fed to clinics. And the idea here is that profits are shared. They're not doing this out of the goodness of their heart. They're wanting to share in the profits. And so sometimes even with the discount sites, their prices are only maybe marginally cheaper. But I've seen on these sites at the moment, premium products being marketed anywhere from $3,500 to $5,000 for one hearing aid. So that's anywhere from $7,000 to $10,000 for a set of hearing aids. Where's the savings in that? How is that a good deal for you? The next point really relates to how the prices themselves are set. And there's two groups of people that will set the prices. The first is actually the manufacturer, believe it or not, because the manufacturer sets the wholesale price. And there was a new product came to market a few months back, and the wholesale price that the hearing aid clinic or retailer has to purchase the product at, these hearing aids were $4,250 per hearing aid. So if the retailer is purchasing the product, it's costing them $8,500 for a set of hearing aids. Now, how do they charge you any less than $8,500 if that's what it's costing them to make that purchase? And so the manufacturer, by and large, is setting the price. But the other party that can set the price is the retailer. And obviously they're going to take the wholesale price and mark it up by whatever margin they feel they're able to get away with. And so some of them may charge you $10,000, some may charge you $14,000. So that's basically how the system works. Very often when you make a phone call and you want to inquire from a retailer what his prices are on a particular product, they won't give you a price, certainly not over the phone, and often not even on their website. Now that should be an immediate red flag for you. If they're not prepared to divulge their prices, why not? That's your first question you should be asking. Why don't they want to disclose their price? Are they ashamed of their prices? Do they feel they're too high? What's the question? So I'd be very wary if they don't disclose their pricing, but they want to again keep you in the dark. The next point relates to, again, them keeping in you dark. And when you go in and actually after you've had a consultation, they give you a quotation on a set of hearing aids. And what they do is they'll give you a quotation on a brand and a model. Or in fact, they won't give you a price on a brand and a model. What they'll do is they'll give you some meaningless information. They'll give you a price on the diamond or the platinum hearing aid. Now you have no idea what that hearing aid is. You don't know what the brand is. You don't know what the model is at all. All you know is the diamond or the platinum. Again, what they're doing is they're putting up a smoke screen so you're not able to go and compare prices on a specific product. The next point relates to something that is probably even sneakier in some respects. And this is where some of the larger manufacturers will actually rebrand their product. So they will take a product from one of the big 5 manufacturers and they will put their own name on that product. And again, the reason they do that is if they have a particular product with their name on it, nobody else has that. You don't know what you're purchasing. So again, you're not in a position to be able to make a comparison in terms of price. However, there are other issues that relate to these rebranded products. And firstly, often these hearing aids are an older generation, so they're not the current technology. Often the hearing aids are defeatured, so they don't have the same features as the original branded product may have. And because they are defeatured, it often means that the software in the hearing aid is different, which means the hearing aids in essence are locked. And that means that no one other than the retailer who is selling you that product is able to program that hearing aid. So you're now going to be locked into that one provider. You can't take that hearing aid to anybody else. If you move location, you move state, and that provider doesn't have a clinic where you happen to be, you've got a useless hearing aid that nobody can adjust for you. So one of the things we really do strongly urge you to do, and that is only buy one of the big 7 brand name hearing aids. Now, the products that you want to look out for will be Oticon, Phonak, Resound, Signia, Starkey, Unitron, and Widex. Anything other than that, just put it in the too hard basket. You don't know what you're doing, what you're getting. You're taking a massive risk. So always stick with one of those big 7 brand names. They're all good products. They're all coming from one of the 5 major international manufacturers. So from a product perspective, you know you're getting a solid, reputable product. The next point you need to watch is where you go and see a particular clinic and they're pushing just one brand. And the problem with this is that they may be giving you very biased advice. They're not giving you a proper choice of different models, different brands. And the 2 reasons why this will happen is either because the clinic that you go to is actually owned by a manufacturer. So if the clinic is owned by the manufacturer is going to make the wholesale profit and the retail profit. So obviously they've got a very strong vested interest in being able to promote that particular brand. So again, that often is going to lead to lack of choice for you as the consumer. If you go to an independent clinic, normally you're going to get a much greater range and variety of choice. Although even there, sometimes you've got to be careful, because in order for them to get some type of discount when they buy a hearing aid from the manufacturer, they need to be able to provide sufficient volume. If they're only purchasing 1 or 2 hearing aids per month from a particular manufacturer, they're not going to get much of a discount. And therefore, they're going to be enticed again to be able to promote basically maybe just the 1 or maybe 2 brands. Now, I want to start to discuss some of the tactics that are used that really make a massive difference to the amount of money you're going to pay for a product. And the first one of these that I want to discuss is what we call technology level price gouging. Now, this relates to what all the manufacturers do. When they bring out a product, they bring that product out in multiple technology levels. Now, what you may or may not understand is that each technology level, the actual physical hearing aid is exactly the same. The physical hardware in terms of the microphone, the chip, the speaker, it's exactly the same. So you're getting the same hardware at each price point. What you're paying for is a difference in the technology or the software of the hearing aid. Now, obviously, from a manufacturer's perspective, it costs them no more to physically manufacture an entry-level hearing aid as it does a top-end hearing aid. It's physically the same, it's just software. Software, as far as loading it into the hearing aid, costs no more to load a high-end hearing aid than it does a low-end hearing aid. So there's very large margins of profit to be made, obviously, in those higher-end products. Now, those higher-end products do work better, but you're paying a massive premium often for them. Often when you go into a clinic, they will encourage you to purchase the highest level technology product. Sometimes they'll actually tell you that this is the minimum technology that your hearing requires. In other words, they're saying unless you pay for the top of the range, nothing else is going to work for you. You need this particular hearing aid. And again, they're manipulating you, steering you into purchasing a particular product. Now, some of the manufacturers, for instance, have 5 different levels of technology. So the entry-level hearing aids may cost you $4,000. The next level up are $6,000. The next level are $8,000, then $10,000, and then the most expensive are $14,000. So you can see that there's this massive increase in terms of the cost as you move up in terms of technology. Now, I would put to you that the highest technology level is the best product for most people. If hearing aids cost absolutely nothing, everybody should be wearing a premium top-end technology hearing aid. However, we've got to really question the value whenever we're looking at how much you're being charged. So yes, the technology is better, but can I justify that additional cost to step up? And I would suggest that the pricing that I've just related to you is just out of this world, is absolutely crazy, and there's no way in the world that you should ever look at paying those sorts of prices just to get a hearing aid with that extra technology. And so we want to show you shortly as to how you can get that high-end technology without paying those inflated prices. Now, the next maneuver in terms of maximizing price, and this has been going on now for a long time. And this has got to do again with these profit margins. And so it's not just the high-end products where the retailer can make a lot of profit. They can do that on a low-end product by overcharging for that as well. So you can get an entry-level product and they can be charging you $5,000 for that as well. That hearing aid costs them relatively less, so they're still making good margins, but it's an overinflated entry-level hearing aid. And then the other trick that they have is often they will use the same technology level, but from an inferior brand, a product that they can source at a much cheaper price. But because it's that particular brand's second tier, they'll charge the same as a better, superior product. And so that you need to know your products in a sense once you get involved in these discussions over one product against another, the technology levels, etc. All of this gets so confusing, it bamboozles people. Often they just succumb and they'll pay. It's all too hard. I would suggest just forget about all of that. We're going to show you how you don't even need to know about that. Just focus on the major brands, the premium levels, but let's work on how you can acquire the best product at the cheapest price possible. Just makes more sense. Now, this next strategy is how the hearing aid retailers are able to extract these massive prices. Let's say $8,000, $10,000, $14,000. If you think about it, with most health professionals like a chiropractor, if you go along to have your bones cracked, initially they may charge you $60 for initial consultation, might take them an hour to review everything, do a few x-rays. But when you normally go back, it'll take them 5 minutes to crack your bones. They know what they're doing. It doesn't take them long to perform that operation, and you'll pay your $60. But what's happening is you're paying $60 per visit. So there's, let's say, clinical services involved. What happens in the hearing aid industry is very different. You go out and you're buying a product. And so when you shop around, you're shopping around for the product. How much is a Phonak Marvel M90, for instance? And you'll be given a price on that, and you'll go elsewhere and you'll shop around for that product. But what you don't understand is that what you're actually purchasing is a bundle. You're purchasing a hearing aid coupled with hearing services, the clinical services. A hearing aid is useless unless it's programmed for you. It has to be set up for your particular needs. So you need a professional to set that up, and you need ongoing care as well. As you adapt to a hearing aid, you'll need to go back and get other services. You'll need your hearing aid adjusted over a period of years, perhaps. And so within the hearing aid industry, those services are bundled together. The problem is you don't know how much you're paying for the hearing aid. You don't know how much you're paying for the services. So if I give you the example here of a predatory retail price of, let's say, $14,000, if I could tell you could get the same hearing aid for just $4,000, that's a difference of $10,000. So those $10,000 you could say are your clinical services. Think about that. $10,000 for clinical services and only $4,000 for the hearing aid. That's what happens when you bundle the hearing aid and the services together. So imagine if you could work that out on an hourly rate. You go and see your clinician twice a year, half an hour each time, over 5 years, for instance. That's five hours at $10,000. They're charging you $2,000 an hour. Wow. Incredibly excessive. Next point I want to discuss is associated with the bundled product. And this is where the hearing aids are now unbundled. So you're just buying the product. So once you've purchased the product, let's say in the case I gave you, maybe $4,000 for the 2 hearing aids, for premium hearing aids. Now what you've got to do is you've got to find clinical services. You've got to find someone who's going to now program and set those up. And this is where you can come unstuck as well. I've had numerous cases where clients are being charged maybe $2,000 per hearing aid to set up and maintain their hearing aids maybe for 1 or 2 years. That's another $4,000 for just a couple of hours work. You know, a totally extortionate pricing. So you got to be really careful. Unbundling the services from the product, great idea, as long as you can get the clinical services at a reasonable and fair price. So how much should you expect to pay? Well, one clinic that I'm aware of, they will charge $495 to set up and program 2 hearing aids and to provide you with a follow-up appointment. If you want all of that, plus you want 1 year of full clinical services, you can go back as many times as you want during that first year to have adjustments to get the hearing aid set up just right. They're going to charge you $995. And if you want a full 5 years of unlimited clinical services, they'll charge you $1,495. Or you could even pay as you go. So the problem when you bundle the hearing aid and the services together is that you're paying for services in advance. You may never use those services. You may not need them. Or what if you were to relocate to a different state? You can't go back to that clinic, but you've just paid your $10,000 for your clinical services. The new clinic that you go to, they're going to want to charge you. They're not going to do it for free. So now you're going to have to pay more on top of the $14,000 that you've already paid. So there are lots of options. So putting you back into control is good because every person has different requirements. Everybody feels more comfortable with different things. Some people are more than happy just to have the hearing aid set up, have a review, and then they're fine. Bearing in mind that today, hearing aid outcomes are so much better than they have been ever. Hearing aids are so good that clients get better outcomes. They don't need to come back numerous times for countless numbers of appointments. The other benefit these days is that most of the high-end hearing aids can be programmed remotely. So again, you don't need to visit the office. And so you can pay as you go just for these remote programming sessions as well. That's going to save you an absolute fortune. So ideally, what you want to do is you want to look at getting yourself an unbundled hearing aid. You're just paying for the hearing aid. So you're going to get you know exactly what you're paying there. You're minimizing your outlay for the hearing aid. And then you want to pay again for your clinical services, but you want to make sure it's a fair and reasonable price and it meets your particular requirements of what you need. Now, the next point I want to raise, and this is critical. The thing I think most people don't understand is that hearing aid prices at wholesale, in other words, where the manufacturer is dictating the price that the clinics can buy the hearing aids at, these prices vary from country to country. And those prices can vary dramatically. And countries such as Australia and New Zealand and some others are being exploited and severely exploited. The cost of a hearing aid at wholesale price in Australia is multiple times what it is for a clinic to purchase it in another country. So just like with electronic consumer goods, with mobile phones and other devices, in Australia we seem to constantly we're being ripped off. And hearing aids are a prime example of that. And so the problem with you acquiring a hearing aid in Australia is that the pricing is set by the local manufacturer, by the price that they set. And if even a company that wants to discount the hearing aids, there's a floor. They can't go below a certain level based on the price that they pay for their product. And so, as I said right at the outset, the system is rigged against you. The manufacturers and the retailers, they do everything in their power to keep that price at a maximum and keep you in the dark, and also to disempower you. You have no choice but to buy from them, from one of the local Australian retailers. I have a hearing clinic in Dublin, in Ireland, and it's called Pub Hearing, P-U-B, Pub Hearing. Very appropriate for an Irish business. Now, pub stands for personal use buying. Now, in Australia, New Zealand, and most other countries, the consumer is able to import hearing aids for their own personal use. Now, these hearing aids cannot be resold. They're for your personal use only, your exclusive use and nobody else's. Now, if you were smart, you would use this mechanism to your own advantage. So what I would suggest to you is that you take back control and circumvent the pricing controls the hearing aid industry is placing upon you in this rigged market by you purchasing your hearing aids from Pub Hearing. So you are purchasing the hearing aids from an overseas Irish company and importing them into Australia for your own use. And the benefit to you is simply that Pub Hearing is able to source and purchase hearing aids at a fraction of the price that clinics in Australia are forced to purchase them at. So we then will pass these massive savings on to you when you purchase online from Pub Hearing. So let me give you a quick overview of the hearing aids that we supply. So firstly, they're only 1,995 Australian dollars each. Secondly, they are the premium level technology hearing aids. There is so little difference in the price at which we can buy the products, whether it's the top of the range or the entry level. There is no question of even having to consider which level to purchase. The best hearing aid for your hearing loss is the best product, the top of the range. And they are so much cheaper. The other ones aren't even worth considering. So that's why we only fit and supply the premium level technology hearing aids. All of these hearing aids will be sourced from one of those 7 major brands that we outlined earlier. Now, I also want to reinforce that because these are original, genuine, branded products, they're not locked. Anybody can program them. They are fully featured and they are the latest generation product. As soon as a new product hits the market, we make those hearing aids available for you. Now, we will also ship these products to your local clinic. We put, again, control back into your hands. If you have an audiologist that you love, has worked with you for years, understands your needs, and you want them to continue providing with those services, all you've got to do is purchase the hearing aids from Pub Hearing. We will ship them to your audiologist, and that audiologist can take care of you for whatever fee they're going to charge you. What we've done is that we have now empowered you, we've provided you with complete freedom for you to choose your preferred brand, your preferred style, your preferred clinic, and your preferred aftercare package, all at a fair and reasonable and transparent price. So, if you already know what you want, then you can shop here, or if you would like more information, then I would certainly encourage you to reserve a free 30-minute consultation where we can answer any questions that you have.